So if you listen to the Rolling Stones performing, they sing as Americans. They use American diction, they use American syntax, and they have American pronunciation. But if you listen to them talking in an interview as people, then they have quite regional accents. That's true of a lot of rock stars. It's weird, really. There are affected accents. I mean, I still do it when I talk to the bank manager sometimes, because I presume he's going to refuse me an overdraft or find some loan that I haven't paid off from 1985. It's the sort of linguistic equivalent of polishing your shoes and putting a tie on. It's pathetic, really. I mean, why can't we just be ourselves in it? A lot of people complain. I mean, we're not just talking about accents now. We're also talking about the sort of stylistics of language, I suppose. But I remember I was invited to take part in a debate, and I wish I had now, actually, on the radio about the emergence of so-called Jafaican, which is this mixture of British English with certain idioms from the West Indies, which is where we get a lot of in it and bruv from. And everybody's saying, oh, it's terrible because people aren't speaking properly. But this has always happened. People muck around with the language and experiment with it. It's because that's what makes it live and become rich. I'm sure all those people on the panel who were sitting there saying it's disgraceful, if some Victorians could hear them speaking, they'd probably say they were disgraceful as well, because it wasn't proper and they weren't pronouncing words properly and their sentence structure was shabby and flabby. It's all bollocks. In it. It's Blake's bollocks. Totally. Now, yeah, accents, it's... Much as we try to deny it, there are some that we prefer. I'll be brutally honest, I'm thinking really about the way women speak, because how men speak isn't so important to me, but the women can seem much sexier with certain voices. I think a very plummy, very educated Indian, sort of Asian, India, Pakistan and so on, that voice in a woman with those very rounded vowels that they have. I'm not going to attempt to do it because I'm used to said accents, but they have a very bubbly, very sort of overinflated sound to the words. I like that. I like Welsh as well, actually, proper hardcore Welsh from up the north. I think it's very melodic and it's very sort of enchanting and mystical. Borders Scottish voices are very nice in women. The woman, I'll be brutally honest, she's electronic, but the one on the other end of the telephone banking system I use is so lovely. I can't, at the end where she says, thank you for calling, I can't put the phone down, even though I know she's actually just a computer. But she was a real woman once. She recorded all those phrases that are cleverly put together by a computer algorithm. She does exist somewhere, like Rapunzel, locked in a digital tower, waiting to be rescued. It's why the voices you can select in a sat-nav are quite important. Some people will want the Irish voice, some people will want the northern one, some people will want the old-fashioned plummy RP voice. I always turn the voice off on the sat-nav. Doesn't matter who it is or where they've apparently come from, I still want them to meet an untimely death, so it's better not to have them there at all. I did a bit of linguistics when I was a student. I found it rather tedious, if I'm honest, but it was occasionally interesting. But I didn't know this theory that the ability to recognise tiny, tiny changes in the way people pronounce words is a sort of defence mechanism, so that whilst we were still tribal peoples and we never really went anywhere apart from maybe over the next hill, you would recognise if someone was an outsider, you would be wary of them. And I think this is still within us. I can tell immediately I pick the telephone up that Richard Hammond is from Birmingham and therefore a potential threat. That's true.
Why does Mick Jagger have a working class accent?
Well, I imagine that's an affectation. It has been fashionable at various points through history. I know, you can read this and even more in the sort of 20s and early 30s. It was very fashionable for the aristocracy to speak like oiks, as they would have put it, in the same way now that it's quite fashionable for people who if you like, are educated, who can form really quite sophisticated sentences with subclauses, to still say, you always coming down the pub, innit? Because it's a less precise form of language, but it's fashionable. That's what it's a sort of cool way of speaking, and in biblical terms, it's a sort of shibboleth. If you do that, you are you are part of a sort of cooling group, and if you can't do it, then basically you're a bit of a square. That's why I practice it at night. I stand in front of the mirror, practice things like blades, amazeballs, megalols, Awesomesauce, in it, totes, Awesomesauce. Nobody's fooled. Works on Twitter though.